What's up? Mason here on the Synthedelic channel. This time it's going to be how I use the EQs in the Boss Katana to shape guitar tones. This video is going to be broken up into 3 sections. First section is going to be like some basic EQ tips and stuff, and the second section is going to be a couple more advanced tips, and then the third section is going to be specifically dialing in tones. We'll start here with a clean initialized patch. So EQs behave differently depending on where you have them placed in the chain. So if I was using chain 1 with the mod and effects after the amp EQ, the EQ would be affecting the overall distortion on the tone. But if you have it set to 3-1, the EQ is affecting the tone before it gets to the distortion. And if you're using one of the chains where the mod comes in front of the booster, you're shaping the EQ even before the distortion from the booster. And the next important thing is, what does the Q mean? Low mid Q and high mid Q. This is specifically how large the band is that you're raising up from on the frequency spectrum, how wide it is. Do you want all of these frequencies to come up, or do you only want these frequencies to come up? So 16 for a very narrow band and 0.5 for a very wide band. Here's a representation of what each of the Qs are in my opinion. Here's 0.5, here's 1, here's 2, here's 4, here's 8, and here's 16. So do you use a GEQ or a PEQ? The GEQ gives you more frequency bands to choose from, but the Qs on here are locked, and they're around the same as maybe 8, the 8Q on the PEQs. So if you want your frequencies to go wider than 8 or tighter than 8, that's when you'd use a parametric EQ instead of the graphic EQ. Parametric EQs, in my opinion, just offer you a little bit more in-depth customization of the frequencies that you're messing with. And for the last part of this, the basics of how they work, the high cut and low cut. This isn't a definite cut. It's not slicing it off 100%. It is more so tailing it off smoothly. So that's why I like to use more than one PEQ with the same high cut and low cut. So here's some more of the a little bit advanced, I assume. So what I like to do when I'm going for these tones is chaining the EQs and working one off of the other. So if I have this boosted up like so, here's what it would sound like with just this graphic EQ. And now if I wanted to tame that a little bit, because I have the character I want, I would take one of the frequencies similar to what I'm going on here, and a rather tight Q, and I remove the specific frequency that I don't want from this boost here. And what I usually do to get a lot more of a thicker tone is I specifically boost 125, and I take one of the lower frequencies here from 100 to 200 typically with a tight Q, and I boost that up. If you want more of the pick to ring out, you bring up 16K. Okay, how do I actually dial in the tones? What am I doing? So you'd want to have the guitar only track preferably in your DAW or just listening to it, and you can go back and forth between their recordings and yours, and you identify the frequencies that are standing out the most to you. What am I gonna want to sound like now? Let's just go for a solid, like Metallica-esque tone. So first you're gonna want to address the preamp. I typically start with a sneaky amp. When you're picking the sneaky amp you want for your tone that you're going for, you want to pick the one where the break apart on the amp and the high-end frequencies are cutting off around the same frequencies of the sound you're already looking for. So if you start good, you're gonna end up good. I'm gonna start with the power drive sneaky amp. So you want the palm mutes and you want the pinch harmonics, you want everything to ring out how it would if it were the actual amp. And you can do that with the booster and the sneaky amp combo and then the 2 preamp EQs. You can all combine all those things and to get a new amplifier. That's how I view it. It's a whole new amplifier when you do that. And then all you have to worry about are the post EQs and shaping them to shape the speaker. Alright, so for this I'm gonna go with chain 3-1. Let's get the gain right. Okay, and then the booster, I typically always go with the Senta OD. Now you gotta get it to sound less fuzzy. You don't want it to sound fuzzy, you want it to sound tight. Graphic EQ, typically for the mod spot I have a graphic EQ. And for this one I'm gonna take away 250. This one is, the 500 hertz is where you add the mud. This is the twang. This is the scratch. This is the higher scratch. This is the frequency that I don't like very much. And this is the pick sound, if you want pick sound in there. Okay, it's getting a little tighter, a little better. Parametric EQ here. I'll take 125 and I'll take 630. Tighten them up. Tighten this one up a little less. Boost it up by like 5. It's getting a little better. Tight, but getting some girth. 630. Boost that up just a little, maybe. Yes. And now I typically will come to the solo section and decipher, bring the level all the way down, decipher whether or not I wanted amp in or amp out. And I think for this, I'm gonna have it as amp in. Take a low cut and stick it at 80 to 100. And the high cut, I will stick around 10K. And let's take 400. Let's take 315 out. Let's boost up 315. All right, that's getting a lot better. Typically bring the bass up, bring this down a little. Contour. So contour 1's a little narrow. The one that sounds the biggest and the deepest to me is type 2. I typically have it from, anywhere in the positive numbers. When it starts to get to the negative on the frequency shift, I don't think it sounds very good. That's a really good sound there. So without the contour. I want it to be a little tighter. Maybe I have a little bit too much gain. I'll bring down the level on the mod. That's getting pretty damn good, if I say so myself. And now, the contour out of the way, I'll come over to the EQ1. These are always going to be amp out. This is more of like an impulse response for the speaker than anything else. I'll take the frequencies that I think it needs more of or less of in this spot. Low cut's typically always at 100. I like to have the high cut at 8 to 10. I want this to be a deep, super deep sound. I'll take 160 and 315 with a tight Q out. In the next one, I'm gonna have the top end frequencies. This is what I'm gonna do here. I'm gonna have 250 with the Q at 2, so it's a little wide. And I'm gonna boost it up by 3 dB. It's better to be less than more with the dBs. And I'll scoop the mids with the Q at 4 with that 800 hertz. And 1K. And last but not least, I come up to the cab resonance and change that. It's usually vintage for me. Okay, I'm noticing a frequency I don't like in there. Let me see. So I'll put this on 16, boost this all the way up. It's that frequency, I think. Yeah, take that out. Don't want that. All right, now the high cut on this one, because I think there's a little bit too much sizzle. If you're having trouble trying to find the frequencies to boost or to take away, what I find is the most useful thing is to take the frequency you're on, put it on 16, boost it up by 20 dB, and then sweep through the frequency. In the mod spot, I typically like the sound that's coming out of the speaker significantly more if I taper off 31 hertz and 62 hertz like so. It's just a lot more tighter, and guitars don't need 31 and 62 hertz in the tone anyways. And then I like to boost up this bass a little bit and get better of a sound. I'm using notes to make this video. Maybe they'll be helpful to you, so I'll show them in the video as well. So I hope this was somewhat informative. I know I'm not the best teacher and I can ramble on pretty easily. I just opened a merch shop. It's a test as of right now. I want to make sure that the quality isn't bad or anything because I'm outsourcing the merch, but I have some t-shirts, bucket hat. I'm soon going to replace this bucket hat with the one that has my logo on it, probably. Got stickers, and all of those things are going to support me. Thank you. If I need to make a part 2 to this because I am a terrible teacher, let me know in the comments. And I'll do a much better job. I'll actually script everything out rather than trying to just tell it from the heart. I like to think I know what I'm doing when it comes to making guitar tones, but I really don't know what I'm doing. I just know what the sound I'm looking for is, and I know how to get there. So, you like my new background setup here? I wanted to raise everything up so it was above my shoulders. I hope everyone had a good Halloween. So yeah, thanks for watching, and until the next one,